Okay, let's take a look at our problem here. We have f of x is x to the fourth plus 5x cubed minus 7x squared minus 29x plus 30. And the first question asks, what is the largest possible number of real solutions? Well, the fundamental theorem of algebra tells us that the highest power tells us how many complex solutions we have. And it's possible all of them could be real. So the largest possible number of real solutions is 4, highest power. We want to look at Descartes' rule of signs to determine the possible number of positive roots. So let's take a look at that. So here is our function. And we count sign changes for f of x. So count sign changes for f of x. I have 1, 5, -7, -29, 30. That is not a sign change. Here's a sign change. That's not a sign change. Here's another sign change. There's 2. So I have 2 possible positive roots. 2 possible positive real roots. Or maybe none, because you can always decrease by an even number. Or 0 possible positive real roots. So that's how Descartes, or zeros, I guess, is the term that this book prefers. 0 possible real zeros. So 2 sign changes. So I could have as many as 2 or decrease by an even number. So that's that one. So what does that tell us? Number of possible positive real roots. So the answer to that is 2 or 0. Again, we look at f of x and then determine how that behaves. Now, how about the number of negative real roots, possible number of negative real roots? So let's write our function down again. It is f of x is x to the fourth plus 5x cubed minus 7x squared minus 29x plus 30. I want to look at f of negative x. All right, so that's negative x to the fourth plus 5 times negative x to the third minus 7 times negative x squared minus 29 times negative x plus 30. So f of negative x, negative, 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 negative becomes positive x to the fourth. But negative x, negative x, negative x be negative x cubed times 5 gives me negative 5x cubed. Negative x squared is just x squared, so times negative 7, negative 7x squared. Negative 29 times negative x is plus 29x plus 30. And then for Descartes' rule of signs, again, we look for the number of changes. So our coefficients, this is a 1, of course. 1, negative 5, negative 7, 29, 30. So let's look at them. From 1 to 5, that's 1 sign change. 5 to negative 7, not a sign change. Negative 7 to 29, now we're up to 2 sign changes. 29 to 30, no sign change. So we had 2 sign changes between the coefficients, so we have 2 negative real solutions, or possibly, or decreased by an even number, or possibly 0 negative real solutions. That's what Descartes' rule of signs tells us. So if we go back there, again, the answer here is 2 or 0. Now it says, use the rational zero test to list all possible rational zeros. So we look at the coefficients of the last number, 30, and the coefficient of the first number, 1, the factors of those. So how are we going to list all the solutions? So again, what is f of x? X to the fourth plus 5x to the third minus 7x squared, minus 29x plus 30. List all possible rational zero tests. So I start with 30. 30 is on top, 1's on the bottom. What are all of the factors of 30? Plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, plus and minus 3, plus and minus 5, plus and minus 6, plus and minus 10, plus and minus 15, plus and minus 30. All of the factors of 1, well, thankfully, that's relatively easy, just plus or minus 1. So I have a whole bunch of possible rational roots. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, 30, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 5, negative 6, negative 10, negative 15, negative 30. Those are all of my possible rational roots, rational zeros. So places where it crosses the x-axis, how many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 possible. Now we've said there could be 2 positive or 0 positive. There could be 2 negative or 0 negative. So let's go to the graphing calculator and see if we can identify what those zeros are. So I'm going to go to the y equals, and I'm going to plug in that function. So we have x to the 4th power plus 5x to the 3rd power minus 7x squared. Make sure you use this button for minus. 7x squared, the other button's for negative. Minus 29x plus 30. So how are we going to see the zeros? Again, I better go at least negative 30 to 30. So my window, I think I'm going to go negative, and the negative button is here. Maybe negative 50 to 50. Just because, again, I might have to go that far. Scale is probably 5 or 10. 10 is probably good. I have no idea what the y should be. I'm going to graph it the first time and see. Maybe negative 100 to 100. Probably going to need to be bigger than that. Make the scale on that 10 as well. So let's graph this, see what it looks like. Window range. I made some mistake there. Let's go back and fix it. I think I know what I did. I make this mistake a lot. Window. Negative 50 to positive 50. There we go. And graph it now that everything else looks okay. What can we see? So I certainly don't need negative 50 to 50. It looks like maybe negative 10 to 10 is enough. And I don't need as much in the y range either, so we'll adjust this. Negative 10 to 10 by 1 on our scale. And I don't know, maybe negative 30 to 30. Maybe that's good enough. Negative 30 to 30. As we're just trying to find a window that kind of works. 10 is good enough there. Let's take a look. There's 1, 0. Looks like I needed to go a little bit more in the y direction. Do we have 2 negative and 2 positive zeros? Sure, it looks that way. Could you believe that 1 and 2 are zeros? Could you believe that negative 3 and negative 5 are zeros? I think so. I think so. Let me adjust my window one more time just so I can see a complete graph. We will maybe double these. Times 2. Times 2. And I just want to show you how you can actually find the zeros using the calculator, because you have second calc. We have the zero finder, which is number 2. So I'm going to, maybe I'll aim for it, the -3, 0. So I move the man in the spaceship left bound a little bit to the left of where it crosses, hit enter. Move it a little bit to the right of where it crosses, hit enter. Move it close to where it crosses, hit enter. And it'll tell me that the 0 is -3. So indeed, that 0 is -3. Just to do one more, second calc, zero finder, enter. We'll move it over a little bit to the left of this 0, enter. A little bit to the right of this 0, enter. Right on it, enter. It gives me a 0 of -5. So I have -3, -5, 1 and 2. Were those on my list? Were those on my list? -3, -5, 1 and 2. From looking at the calculator, I was able to find that, to find those zeros.